In this video, you see the whole process of the tiny house, from finding the company to the whole planning, construction, and delivery. Hello, we are Daniel from Brazil, Stella from Germany, and our border collie Bonnie. We moved from the heart of Berlin all the way to the beautiful north of Portugal. We've got this amazing 1.2 hectares of land with an old ruin right by the river. We are going to share our experience of living in a tiny house and the whole process of turning this beautiful place in our home. Starting from scratch, we are diving into manual work, gardening, have some farm animals and any other task you can imagine. Trying to spend more time away from the computer screens. We are all about learning by doing, sharing our successes, fails, and the fun moments with you.
So when we bought the land, it was in November 22, our goal was to move as fast as possible to the land. And this is when we decided to get a tiny house so that we can move earlier to the land. Yeah, Daniel was searching for some companies close to the area where we bought the land. And we visited 2 companies in total. The first one was not that nice, I think. They had very simple houses and one bestseller. And the bestseller was the Cube, which you can see here on the pictures. The house by itself, it was nice, but it was A, too large, B, it was like with a fundament, so you couldn't move it, which is not really an option for our land because we're only allowed to build where the room is. It also only had like one large window where the bedroom was. And we wanted to have something where we can see the river.
So the second company we visited was Casa Gaia, and it is the company that ended up building our tiny house. We had the first visit in March 2023, so we could get like a good feeling of how they would build the tiny house. So we went there. They have like 3 or 4 tiny houses being built at once. In the tiny house, it fit our needs because it comes with a trailer, meaning that the tiny house is built on top of some wheels. So for Portugal matter, you can park this type of tiny house and it works more like a caravan or something like this. We met the founder. I don't know, we had a long weekend. We went for a restaurant in the middle of Portugal with like some friend of us with some kids, and they had like a nice nature park thing for the kids. And the founder was actually there. They tried to play with Bonnie and stuff, and that's how we met. And it was very funny because when we left the car going to the Casa Gaia, the company, he recognized me straight away, and I'm like, oh yeah. Then we started chatting, and that's how it went.
And also the nice thing with the company we chose is that they were quite flexible in the designs. So they gave us the option that we can say like, oh, we want our tiny house like this. So Danny and me, we made like a mood board with different Pinterest posts of tiny houses. And then we gave them our mood board and they created something which was matching with what they could offer, because they are also limited in certain sizes because of the trailer. 2 large houses would not fit in. And yeah, this is how we developed together the design for our tiny house.
I think the process went very smooth in general. It was really like changing the layout, how many rooms we want. Some people put like many rooms and they make it very large, but also very claustrophobic. So we decided to split to have this living room without anything on the roof, even though we know that it's kind of a lost space. It's I don't know, it's very comfy. We like it quite a lot. While in the other side, we have a bit more closed space because we have the bedroom per se on the top.
And in the beginning, the process was going like really fast. So we met them in March, and already in June 2023, they built like the
whole frame, the whole structure.
The structure of the tiny house. As you can see in the pictures here, when we visited, and it was lovely. It was super exciting to see the tiny house and them building up, and they already had like the rooms. As you can see on the pictures, there's the bedroom, and they started to build the stairs, and they put all like the wires in the ground. It was good. It was nice. It was a good experience, and we felt like we made a good decision.
In August, the tiny house was almost ready. So the first visit, it was just the structure, right? So the outside part was just with the wood, some part of the installation, but very, very rough. So most of the finishes were ready. There was some polishes here and there to be done, and we got super crazy, even more excited than before. So.
Yeah, also here you can see the videos how the tiny house looked in August. And our plan was actually in the beginning to move in August 23. Then we delayed it a bit more. And like Bonnie also enjoyed a lot going there. She was like grabbing sticks, like wooden parts from everywhere, running around. Everybody loved her. And here in this video you can see how Daniel inspected the kitchen.
So September arrived, the tiny house was basically ready. We did not got the tiny house ready just because it was not needed. So basically our goal was to move as soon as possible, but to move here we needed electricity, we needed water, we need some basic infrastructure and many things that you cannot just come here. So the people from the tiny house, they said, hey guys, can you wait for a month because some people are on vacation? Is it okay? And they're like, yeah, no worries, all good. So we waited 1 month more, and it was when the tiny house was finished. So in October, it's finally when we got the alvará. It's what they call like this final building permit, where I went to the government. It's all the paperwork, the constructions, insurances, everything combined. So it's finally the time we could apply for the electricity and water. So the electricity and water is tied to the construction process.
And electricity and water, like the base or the minimum we need to be able to live in the tiny house. So we needed to wait for this. And in October, they also built our tiny house base. We decided to build base A because the land is very uneven and full of stones, and because the location of the tiny house is next to the river, and we knew that the river can go over the shores. So we needed something which lifts the tiny house so that the tiny house will not be taken away by the river. Yeah, we were very pleased with the result. We also had fun with the building machine and Bonnie, obviously.
So in November, all the paperwork was ready for the loan. So I had to come here to Monção, to the city nearby, to sign all the paperwork and do all the bureaucracy part in the bank. And we took the chance, since we would drive all the way up here, to check the land. And it was also more or less the period of rain. So we wanted to see how much of flooding the land would be like. Nature was great, a bit of mushrooms here and there, but we could also see that in some parts next to the tiny house, all the grass and the trees were like kind of bended to one side, and that was probably because of water. So a lot of water would float and would take all the trees and all the grass and the leaves and stuff towards the same direction. In December, we finally got the electricity connected. So after all the paperwork, we applied for the wrong type of electricity because I applied for the residential one instead of the construction type of electricity. So end of December, we got this notification saying that everything was set and we could finally have electricity in the land.
Yeah, but then it took another month until they managed to connect the wires with electricity.
Yeah, so basically once the infrastructure there's another electricity company that sells the electricity. So there was also another month of work and paperwork and talking to people to figure out what to do, basically.
Yeah, and then finally in February this year, 24, it's the time to move. And it was a very exciting day. We went up very early in the morning. We packed all our stuff like a month ago already. Yeah, it was 7 a.m. when we were about to leave. We loaded the car, and when we started to drive the first meters, the car showed us that something is wrong. Like the alarm of the motor symbol went on and was blinking, and the car, like you couldn't change the gears anymore. We couldn't reach anybody. The friends we managed to reach, they needed their cars themselves for the day. Like no mechanic had time. The car rental shops, even at the airport in Porto, they didn't have any cars, and we were like, oh God, what should we do? Like the time passed and passed and passed, and then the tiny house company called us like, yeah, we cannot wait for you guys. The tiny house will be on the way to the land. It was nerve-wracking.
We had similar issues with the car before, where the gear was not going to park or something. We left the car for like a week or two at the mechanic. We managed to get a car. So a friend of ours, actually the dad of a friend of us, managed to get his car to us. They were like very sweet, very early in the morning, and we managed to drive there. So kind of tried to go in a hurry there for, instead of going to the tiny house company, go straight to the land so we could see the arrival of the tiny house.
Yeah, and then the weather started to get like super shitty. First a lot of fog, then heavy rain, and we were on the road and it started like to rain a bit less. And then when we passed by Braga, we got a glimpse on our tiny house. Like we saw the Siano truck which was carrying our tiny house. And from then, like we got hope. The weather started to get better. We saw a beautiful rainbow, super vivid. I never saw something like this before. And we arrived at the land 15 minutes before the guys who helped with the tiny house delivery. And yeah, we decided to take a walk at the land.
So arrived at the land, we could already see that it was full of mud and water everywhere and slippery. It was not great. Previous day, Senor Ricardo sent me a video. Senor Ricardo was the guy who was like helping us to flatten the road and to make the access easy so the tiny house could go without bumps, without many issues. So he sent me a video where everything was flat, nice, wide, everything was perfect. But it was exactly the day that it was raining a lot overnight, over the day. By the time we arrived there, by the time the tiny house was there, it was roughly like midday or 11. It was a disaster. So everybody started to be very skeptical about the whole delivery. We thought about just parking the tiny house there, forget about the delivery because it was super slippery, full of mud. The truck driver was also like probably the most experienced guy, which helped us a lot, by the way. He was like, I'm not sure, maybe it's possible, maybe not. So there was like a big debate between us, like of what to do. Of course, the insurance is not covering this stuff, right? The insurance just covers the road part, the happy path. Everything else after that, it was on us. It was like, okay, it's pretty much like gambling with money. And after a lot of discussions, Senor Ricardo was also there. He had a tractor and he was quite confident that they could make it work, and we decided to take the chance, basically. Senor Luis, that was the truck driver, he was like, hey guys, okay, my work's done, I'm out. And like, Senor Luis, wait, help us a little bit here because you're the most experienced guy here. We really need another cup of ice here to help and suggestions and thoughts. So he decided to stay a bit longer with us, which was not a bit longer. He literally stayed like, I don't know, 2-3 hours more, right? So he decided to help us. It was amazing. We did a change, so had the truck and we changed for the tractor. So the tractor could pretty much just drag the tiny house. The wheels of the tiny house are almost like symbolic.
And sometimes it was like super, super tight, like only a hand would have fit between like the trees, the tiny house and the wall on the other side. It was really like nerve-wracking. Senor Ricardo was super cool. Senor Luis was navigating, and the 3 guys who should do the delivery, they were also there. But I think without Senor Ricardo and Senor Luis, it wouldn't have like worked out.
Yeah, but I also have to say that Senor Ivan was also helping out.
Yeah.
It was also the other guy from the...
Who was the most concerned in the
Yeah,
beginning.
he was the most concerned.
Guys,
he was
I would
very...
just leave the tiny house at the street. This will not work out.
As you can see, full of mud, right? It's tricky. Once we managed to get the tiny house across the gate, our entrance here, I was a bit more relaxed. Worst case scenario, we could just park. The tiny house would be in our property. I could just chill, right? And wait for a sunny day to do it. So Ricardo, Luis, super like confident. Everybody was like happy, let's make it work. And we kept on doing it. Base of the tiny house was like getting completely scratched because of the hills, the stones and stuff. It's quite crazy. The whole delivery process. It was very, very stressful. We were so tired after that. Yeah, after I think cutting all of the trees, managed to pass through all of the stones gates, we had the tiny house parked there, right? Yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching the video. We are going to record another video where we show the first week living here, how we are managing everything, the expectations and so on. So far so good. If you live nearby, if you know the region here, just write us. We don't know much. We are trying to get by here, get to know the region. People are very friendly so far, so it's really nice to talk with locals and stuff. Super, super cool people. But if you know restaurants, nice place here to eat, let us know. If the hiking spots or nature or something like this in the region, just write us. It will be great to exchange some knowledge on it.
Thanks for watching. Ciao, ciao.